Hello, America, and to our friends around the world, greetings and welcome back. So what's up with everybody? We're diving into something wild today. One of the darkest episodes of Star Trek. And it's always going to be Star Trek. A lot of people call it TOS, the original series. But for me and others of my generation, it will always be Star Trek. And I say this because the local affiliate, almost without fail, every Sunday at 4 o'clock, and then on its rotation, Monday through Friday at 5, I think it would be Star Trek or Buck Rogers or Battlestar Galactica. I think Wonder Woman was in that mix. Yeah. So, it will always be Star Trek. But this is one of the darkest episodes that you don't hear talk about because it's too real. I mean, look around what's going on around the world. Look at what was going on in the sense of just this, in autumn of 2025. No matter what side of the fence you're on, what the Democrats pulled in Congress is akin to this. The first season, episode 13, The Conscience of the King. It aired in 1966, right smack in the middle of the Cultural Revolution, exploding in China. Coincidence? I don't think so. This is Star Trek smuggling straight-up commentary on Mao Zedong, the Great Leap Forward, and how tyrants get away with genocide while the world looks away. Buckle up. This one's going to hit hard. We're talking tens of millions dead. And yeah, if you like your history a little bit tied into your pop culture, as far as what how it was how the pop culture was inspired, leave a flag emoji in the comments, like, share, subscribe, whatever you want to do. Because we are facing some unprecedented times. I mean, the 60s had some craziness, the 70s had some craziness, and then the 80s was just cruise control with a V8. Anyway, before I digress into all that nostalgia, let's take a look at this. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm building into. And you can see it right here. The Great Chinese Famine. It was during the Cultural Revolution, the Great Leap Forward. Death toll, 15 to 55 million. They don't even know how many millions of people. And you can pause the video and read through it. But what essentially happened during this time frame was the Communist Party of China, the CCP, led by Mao Zedong, wanted to force change of China from an agrarian society to an industrialized nation. And they did so at the expense of upwards of 55 million souls. And what caused the famine was diverting labor from farming into the industrial projects. And what compounded it was the exporting of grain, even though those in China were dying. You can read more about it if you'd like, but I wanted to touch on this because the Star Trek example or interpretation of this atrocity is different You had Kodos, who was governor of a planet, an Earth colony planet, Tarsus 4, 2246, 2247, the middle of the 23rd century, facing severe food crisis caused by an exotic fungus. As China's cultural revolution and great leap forward and whatnot. But the actions and the results are similar. Maybe not on the same scale. Facing severe food crisis, approximately 4,000 of the colony's 8,000 inhabitants, in order to survive, to ensure that there was survival, that he'd done the calculations and decided, well, if we cut the population in half, then we have enough half rations until an outside source can provide for us. So he invokes martial law and ends 4,000 souls. Relief supplies arrived earlier than expected, making all of those drastic permanent actions unnecessary. Kodos was believed to have died. So had another genocidal maniac in the middle of the 20th century was believed to have died. And there's plenty of stories about rat lines and Argentina and whatnot, but we'll save that for another. So let's get back into exploring more of this. You've got Captain Kirk getting a message from Dr. Thomas Leighton. He also was on Tarsus 4 with Captain Kirk, and they had witnessed this horror on Tarsus 4. And you have Governor Kodos, who's now the brooding Shakespearean actor, Karidian, Anton Karidian. So as governor, he declares martial law, uses his eugenics theories to decide who gets to survive and not. And this is based on IQ, genetics, politics, and essentially it's for the superior half to be able to survive on rations until the help arrives, as I stated. So you've got the Great Leap Forward, Mao's insane plan to turn China into an industrial superpower overnight. Oh, but China is an industrial superpower at the expense of 55 million souls. That's the reason it's insane. Communes force the farmers off fields to build useless steel in backyard furnaces. They melt down pots, tools, doors, anything for quotas.
The Great Leap Forward's most ambitious goal, Chinese were told production of steel also had to double in 1 year. And instead of producing this just from heavy industry, the energy and goodwill of the peasants was to be mobilized again. Small furnaces were built in villages and backyards across the country.
All right, so you're thinking, what has the problem, or what is the problem with peasants even smelting and melting steel in their own furnaces? It's because all attention was turned away from farming and from food production that led to starvation. Let's take it a little bit further. There was a thing called the Four Pests campaign. Pests, as in pestilence, Four Pest campaign. Mao orders everyone to kill sparrows, bang pots, scare them till they drop dead from exhaustion. Billions of birds wiped out. Result? The locust explode that devours the crop. This is not any different than pestilence on Tarsus 4, destroying the food supply. Except that in this case, it was real, live, intentional. So why am I showing you the image of the woman that played Lenore holding the phaser? It's because, as George Orwell stated in his novel 1984, it's always the women. Look around. You have these voters, overwhelmingly, of women of various demographics, of various age brackets, voting in for this type of self-deletion, cultural, societal self-deletion. They took and placed into one woman an entire legion, and not an actual numerical legion. I mean legion in the sense of vast numbers. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the name. Okay, I am. Yu Sheng Zhen. She was a member of what was called the Red Guard. They were the organization that enforced Mao Zedong's authority, rule. Oh, so you go from, Lenore, one individual woman, to this former Red Guard, a single, individual woman. It doesn't end there, ladies and gentlemen. It persists, and I will show you. What do you notice right there in the forefront? These are women members of the Chinese Red Guard in the mid-60s. George Orwell said it. Star Trek is saying it. History demonstrates it on repeat. Not just rhyming, absolutely on repeat. If you want to subvert a society and a culture, and look at Elijah Schaffer. What's going on with him? He reposts somebody else's commentary, and now he's being threatened with a $5 million suit. And as Sherlock Holmes said, and I may have the quote wrong, it's always the woman. They are the subversive agent of society. Well, not always. I mean, the point I'm trying to say, though, is look at this. You have, Muammar Gaddafi, who had an all-woman protection security detail back in the day. You have Mao Zedong's Red Guard, composed of a large number of women. This isn't isolated. The voting, how people vote in Western nations, you've got, women overwhelmingly voting for their own destruction. And that's what this is all about. Star Trek, science fiction, is a vehicle in which to make social commentary palatable in a manner that isn't going to get a knee-jerk reaction to ignore it. And in 60 years, though, this issue has been ignored. And that is people, society, governments turn a blind eye to the tens of millions that were ended in the name of progress. People scoff at the bad sets and whatnot of the original Star Trek episodes, ignoring what it was actually being discussed, presented. Now the result is the Daniel Penny effect. Where are all the good men? You've punished them. The good men exist. They're just focusing on
their immediate surroundings, meaning themselves and those for whom they're responsible, whether it's their family, their community, their neighbors, only those that they know. And even then, it's still a bit of a gamble. Governor Kodos may not be an exact, action for action parallel to Mao Zedong, but Star Trek, at its strongest, was always about social commentary. And in 60 years, apparently, we've learned nothing. Keep your head on a swivel out there. Stay safe. Like, subscribe, share, leave a flag emoji in the comments at the minimum. Good day.